agility and rethinking us. This event was born out of an agenda to include women in Agile, specifically, where women can come together to collaborate, network, brainstorm on how we can manage our well-being in the tech space. So today we are not focusing on the Agile frameworks or Agile practices. Yes, we agree that Agile is about sprints, about stand-ups, about rituals, but today we are focusing on the people. And one of the Agile frameworks says people over progress. And today we are trying to answer that question. Are we really doing that? Are we really starting with people over progress? And it also says individuals at the heart of it, teams at the heart of it, which is what agility is all about. At the heart of agility, we have people, we have individuals, not always about the rituals, not always about the stand-ups, about people behind the work that Agile is all about. So today, that is why we've gathered here, and thank you for calling, thank you for the curiosity. So a little bit about myself is that I'm an engineer, on board diagnostics plus emission certification engineer, as well as a Scrum Master for my team in Java Land Rover Limited. So I've been able to collaborate with individuals in Agile in my workplace. I've been able to start up a Kanban board, start up a Scrum board, and also organize certain master classes for my team. So aside that, I'm keeping that aside and focusing on how Esther Ayao has been able to manage to be in the tech space and how I've been able to navigate it and everything that comes with it, the imposter syndrome, the wanting to belong, the vulnerability that comes with it, being in the tech space as a woman specifically. And today we have speakers, amazing speakers that will be coming on board and certain code of conduct that we need to
really pull out. And that's what agility basically is about. It's about evolving along the way. It's not about perfection. Of course, we all aim for perfection. But I like to say that it's a fuss. And when we think of the human aspect and how humanity has evolved over time, we think way before now, people aspired to be able to take instant photos. I mean, that was the aspiration. That was their definition of perfection. But at the time, right now, we're still thinking evolution. We're still thinking progress. And the point is, at what point are human beings ever going to reach that peak where we go like, yeah, we've done it? So, it's about agility for me is not just about aspirations. It's about actually managing expectations. And when I say managing expectation, I'm like, what's our role as Scrum Masters? Half the time when I talk to people who are not in tech, they don't even know what Scrum Masters are. They don't know who project managers are. And the point is, they don't even understand agility. The question is, do we need to bug them with that? Does it affect our delivery? That's the question that I ask. Because at the end of the day, who needs to know, do I need to know all the terms of my body before it functions? Or as a doctor, does a doctor need to bug me with those technical, or should I say professional terms? I'm not interested. All I care about is I'm okay, it solves my problem, I go out. So when we talk about Scrum and we talk about processes and we talk about our ceremonies, the question becomes, are we being bogged down unnecessarily by terminologies? And do we need to refocus on what delivery actually is? In this case, there's usually tech. Okay, so why do companies exist? Why do businesses exist? And why do we, as human beings, exist? Most times it's because we want to deliver value, isn't it? So you take a business, for instance, it's someone's dream about fulfilling or answering a call, because they think it is something that's going to answer the problem of the world. So whether it starts from the small, or we're looking at the, so if we're looking at the microcosm or we're looking at the big picture, the point is we still need to start somewhere. And that's what agility is about. So maybe that's what I'm trying to explain here. Because agility, who cares? The point is, how does it solve your problem? And this is what I'm trying to say. So first of all, agility says you don't have to bog yourself with the whole picture. You can start in small chunks. You don't have to understand the whole world. Just start making impact from the next person to you. Start making impact from the little. And that's what it is. So we do things in small chunks, and we do things, with the hope of, so we look at low-hanging fruits and deliver an aim to, which we call MVPs, minimum viable products, and aim to make people happy, because at the end of the day, we are here for the people. It's not just about us. And so when we talk about well-being, we're not just being selfish. In fact, Scrum Masters are servant leaders, which means that we're not just here to come and, we are not project managers. We don't command people, or we don't tell people you have to do this. We advise people, we guide people, we train people, and then we also empower them to make decisions, the best decisions. And I must say, this brings me to my big question of the day, and it's that, what do Scrum Masters actually do? The real impediments most times are silent. They're cultural, they're structural, they're technical, they're systemic. And most times it's not something that goes on the Jira board, because this is the issues we face as Scrum Masters. You have wonderful ideas, you have a team full of people with technical skills and wonderful ideas. How do you sync this? Because the human nature, everybody's got ego. Like it or not, it's a fact, and it's something you have to deal with. Even though you need to focus on the goal, and this is what we refer to as sprint goals, or we talk about epics, which are like quarterly goals, that we want to achieve. The point is, all these goals and all this breaking it down into chunks, like we call them sprints and backlogs, whatever terminology we use. The point is that we are trying to achieve a goal at the end. And the point is, you're dealing with human beings. And I must say that in my role, you can call me middle management. I found out that the most difficult people to work with are leaders, because you're not dealing with people who are asking for instruction. You are dealing with people who have ideas, and they have their own, preconception of how something should be delivered. So now the point is, how do we surmount your concept of delivery and this person's concept of delivery? So sometimes it's merging engineering. So this engineering guy, you cannot dispute his argument, and it's the fact. He has reasons for concern. And you also have to deal with this financial guy. Yeah, and the point is, everybody's coming with cogent reasons. So how do we, as Scrum Masters, how do we, as servant leaders, model that it's not about flexing muscles, it's not about throwing jargon that nobody understands? There was, I looked at one video and I redid it. It was about, it was a skit about interviewing, there was an interview. Someone was interviewing Taiwo and Kendi. I thought it was very funny. Someone shared it with me. But then the point is, you don't have to think it's funny. But Taiwo and Kendi, that's people from the southern part of Nigeria, mostly southern part of Nigeria. And, Yoruba is widely spoken among people like that. Anyway, point is, Taiwo and Kendi are asked, would you marry someone that drinks H2O? Taiwo said never. How can I marry someone that drinks H2O? They do all sorts of crap, they get up in the morning and, so that conversation ended. Kendi, would you marry someone that drinks H2O? He said, what? H2O? Never. How can I marry someone that drinks H2O? That person, if you live in the same house with them, they can bring something on your head and land it on your head, certainly. Now, all sorts of mishaps are going to happen to you if you marry someone that drinks H2O. Then the person goes like, what is H2O? Taiwo goes like, H2O is one wonderful, goes like, he said Bogi. Bogi in Yoruba is something like, how do I call it? Some drink, some ritual drink. I said, okay, fine. Ask Kenny, what is H2O? H2O, he goes like, anyway, bottom line. Sorry. Bottom line is, sorry, no, come on. Do I need it, or is it kind of?
Yeah, you can go on.
Okay. So the bottom line is that they did not even understand what H2O was. At this point, you're going to say, yeah, they're very ignorant. But the point is, the communicator, why did you not simplify and say water? Why did you put H2O in? That's one. And then the other question becomes, H2O, you ask yourself, what's the big deal? Everybody should know H2O. But I must say, not everybody. Ask a 2-year-old if they understand what H2O is. So, for me, I'm like, I think apart from all these technicalities, the most important thing is ensuring, first of all, that your audience, before you start creating all these wonderful plans and all these write-ups that make you look like grandiose terms, because I promise you, tech is full of people that are brilliant. And brilliant people, we like feeling very important, unfortunately. So, it's pocketing the ego and ensuring that the most important thing is achieved, which is communication. Because without communication, there is no goal. We are not getting anywhere. And so, this is what we need to establish as Scrum Masters. We need to keep, what I like saying, when I started in Agile, one of the things I noticed was there were lots of silos. So it's not peculiar to Agile. I'm just using it as my experience. Agile is automotive, so basically, and engineering is vast. So you're talking, I'm not going to go into all the blocks that you want to think about. But you find this person, they're working in the same team. They're using all these technical terms. I mean, even for people, someone wrote a note, I'm having a meeting with PJ and JJ, and I asked, is PJ pajamas? The point is, I know, but the point is, it's as basic as that. Can we try to communicate instead of, can we smash the silos? I love the word smashing, by the way. It's one of my go-to things because I love puns, because life is a pun after all. You need to learn to take yourself seriously, but as well you need to laugh. Because what's life? I mean, if we all chase everything we're chasing after all, who's going to own it after all? And this is what priority is about. It's saying to people, you are important. This is what Scrum Masters are trying to say. We're not just focusing on the delivery of the product, because after all, 2 years after, that product is going to be out of fashion. Sorry to say, but that's a fact. People are no longer being interested, may no longer be interested. But how have you impacted the people along the way? How have you, because, most times we kind of focus on our end goal, forgetting that the people, without people, you can't achieve anything. People are the center of everything we do. And until we reprioritize people's well-being and understand that our well-being too is crucial to this, and realize that life is a balance. When I think of balance, I think of juggling, So you're juggling this and juggling that. How do you master that skill without dropping any ball? The bottom line is that life is a race, but guys, like this poet said, he said, what is this life? If full of care, we have no time to stand and stare. And that's what it is for most of us. We're rushing through life, forgetting to stand, to admire. Even when I go and work with some people, they're just eager to, get back another, accolade to say, yeah, I climbed Snowden, I climbed this and that. Should that be the purpose all the time? Should getting the next, should I say, acclamation be your goal? Or should we remember that life is a journey that is meant to be enjoyed, not endured. And so even if we apply this to everything, not just work, but to everything in life, then what I've also found out with teams, because as a Scrum Master, like I said, we are breaking silos, we're breaking glass ceilings. The issue with glass ceilings, I usually ask people, is that it's not just breaking the glass ceiling, right? If you are black like me, sorry to say, chocolate, let me be not sweet about it. Someone said, if you're chocolate like me, someone said she's chocolate. So let me invite that. Yeah, if you're chocolate like me, there are things that we have to confront, which means it's not all your ideas that will be taken naturally. Not all our ideas are good. Well, my point is, how do we continue as people, not just of color, not just of gender, not just with whatever identity you may come with, because of course being a person of color comes with its challenges, and like I said, it's like smashing glass ceilings. And when the issue with smashing glass ceilings, which is what I love to ask many times, is by the time you have broken through the glass ceiling, what if the glass hooks your neck? So the point is, we are better together. We're better not just doing things on our own. I love Mother Teresa. She said that I alone cannot change the world, but I can start a ripple. And that ripple that you start, it's like lighting a torch. Let's say, for instance, there's darkness in our world, naturally, because many of us have all these questions. Why does this happen? Why can't my company do this? Sorry, it's not a question. Why can't people do this? But the question, the answer is that it's a form of darkness. How do we, as individuals, shed light? How do we see ourselves in the scheme of things? With ceilings, which are barriers that need to be broken. Are we going to do it on our own? I don't think that's what the Scrum Master's job is about. I think it's about carrying everybody along. Yeah, it may take a long time. Yes, it's like a tortoise after all. And when you look at the race, the proverb of the race, the story of the race between the hare and the tortoise, the hare, you can say, was focused on achieving the next title. He was focused on just getting it done. Whereas the tortoise carried all his house with him in that sense. So are we asked to be hare or tortoises in this race called life? In this race called agility? Because at the end of the day, we sprint for goal. So my thing is, I believe it's a relay race. So the way you run the race affects the other person. It's not just a sprint. It's putting it in perspective to understand that you do your bit as best as you can and hand over to the next generation, whoever and whatever that comes as. So yes, Agile isn't a ritual, it's a relationship. And I'm not saying that I can do everything, but I'm here as well to be authentic, to be bold, to be candid, and to, yes, I'm very thoughtful, but a little cheeky, and it's not just about running ceremonies, it's about smashing invisible barriers so that we can be smashing Scrum Masters. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So do you know Agile?
That was an amazing lecture from Toby Gold, and you will agree with me that she has been able to break down what agility is all about. And for me, my takeaway is how we should ensure that people in the tech space should break down the technicalities and the jargons and terminologies of the tech space. Try as much as possible to make sure that the language you're using, the receiver understands it, and the goal of the communication should be that the receiver understands it, instead of trying to use the technical knowledge which only you understand, but your audience does not understand what message you're passing on, as well as also being authentic, being bold, and being candid as women in tech spaces. One more takeaway from me is that we should ensure that along the way we should try to enjoy our life, try to enjoy your work. It's not about always smashing goals. Enjoy the means, this goal. Yeah, while smashing goal is important, attaining heights is important. Enjoy the process while it lasts. Enjoy the process. Enjoy the failures, the part that is not easy as it's not as nice as you would want it to be. Enjoy it because at the end of the day, all of those bits of it make up the goal that you are striving for. And as well as she trying to make us understand that agility is more like breaking your work bit by bit and also prioritizing the well-being of the people carrying this task. And that will bring me to the introduction of our next speaker, who is a policy strategy, a wellness communication specialist with a mental health law master's degree. So, brace up and listen to an amazing speech which Queen Ekane Essien will be bringing up for us. Join me to welcome her.
Yeah.
It's actually very exciting to be here. I'm super excited to be speaking on the human side of agility, which is reclaiming well-being in tech. Now, I just want to start off with a short story. Imagine a Molara. Molara is a software developer. She's juggling various tasks. You can see it. You can see it on my slide. She's juggling various tasks. You can see her struggling with context switching between meetings, code reviews, and team dynamics. With Agile, Molara is made to be effective in delivering her tasks. And so even though Agile makes for more flexibility, you can see that for Molara, it sometimes means being always on. She's always on. You can see how she's on. She's often exhausted not just by work, but the emotional load of keeping harmony and staying visible. The message here is that Agile was meant to help, but in some cases, or more often than not, for many women, it has also meant burnout, self-doubt, fatigue. Statistics show that 68% of women in tech face burnout, and 41% of them consider leaving the industry within 2 years. And that now brings me to the next slide, which is the promise Agile gave to us all and the reality that we are all facing with agility. Now, you can see the vision. This is Agile, very smooth. And then you can see the reality of it itself. And this is one that we need to actually now begin to think and consider. What is the reality and what is the promise? The promise is the sustainable pace. That's agility for you. But the reality is that sometimes there are constant urgency. And then you also have people over process. But then in the reality of it all, it's rigid ceremonies. Other times, it says to you embracing change. And obviously, yes, it has brought change. And not just change, it has brought flexibility, it has brought effectiveness. But on the other hand of it is change fatigue. So, as you all know, with every positive effect, there's also a negative effect. So it's sort of like they are at a par. But what we need to do is to be able to create that balance. And that's why we are having this conversation today. The hidden cost of this is that there's emotional labor to keep teams together. Ideas are being overlooked in meetings. Why? Because of that rigid ceremony, because of that change fatigue, because of that constant urgency. So this is the cost of the promise for agility. And when when we begin to place agility over the well-being of the humans that we are working with. And there's also that pressure to maintain excellence at work and home. And we are dealing with women here. We must have it in mind that women have, it's a unique thing for women that other than having to work, have your home to manage. If you're married and you have kids, there are the kids there at home. As a woman, you go through periods. And that period comes with mood swings, Men don't have to go through those things. And somehow it has become normal because it's something you experience every month. But it's not normal. So when you put in all of these effects and all of these biological change and situations for a woman, then you know that there's a lot more that is required of her, because she needs to be efficient at work, and she needs to take care of her own health and then her well-being. And that now takes me to just being able to emphasize it more that Agile should evolve with people. It should evolve with its people, not to overrun them. Women have more work to do to get the best from Agile, and it's because of these examples that I've given. Because they go through more things than they realize. We need to acknowledge that while Agile is for efficiency, it is not without its shortcomings. And being a woman means you have to be more intentional about your well-being than you wouldn't. So well-being is important. Well-being is your human side. And it has to be at a balance, because your job is as important as your well-being. If your well-being is impacted, then how can you be productive? It's the human that gets the job done. Not the job doesn't work itself out. The human has to, and for the human to do it, it has to be well cared for. Now I'll just go ahead to talk about, I'll go on to the next slide, which is burnout triggers. That's what happens, the mental health toll of not caring for your well-being. And that's one. You can see how Omolara is. You can see what's happening to her. Cognitive overload from constant prioritizing. You can see at times at work she goes through imposter syndrome due to public metrics. That's more like saying the data indicators are visible to others, example like website traffic. There are suppressed voices in retrospectives. The real impact is that some women can feel isolated, unheard, and overexhausted. The message here is that behind every sprint metrics is a human mind, and there is need to care for that mind. And when I say sprint metrics, I just want to make it clear that it's sort of like when you're talking about sprint here, it's like division of labor, breaking down tasks into manageable bits so you can actually get it to completion. And so it's also like it's one that helps you with giving periodic updates to get an early feedback. So because I had to take a moment to extend sprints, because it might be a bit of a jargon for somebody else who is not in the tech space. So sprint works in a way, I will just try to explain it in a way that, imagine a house. If you want to build a house, you have to cut things down into bits. You know, if somebody says I want a house, you don't just bring the house and say I've built the house. As you start off with the foundation, the flooring, everything else, you need to show them and let them know. So that's how sprint works, breaking down tasks. And then you finish it and then you get to completion. So I'll now get on to the next bit of my presentation. And that would be a human-centered agile shift. That's what we need. And when I talk about a human-centered agile shift, you can see how people are sat together here. Malaya is sat with other colleagues and they are working together as a community, as one. That's a simple shift. We need to now begin to think, what can we do to help bring that sense of teamwork, not team in the word, but team in practice. How can we bring that teamwork to reality? Replacing status check-ins with emotional check-ins. And when I say this, not emotional check-ins to tick the box, but a genuine way you check in on your colleague. The way that you show that you're able to review your sprint. So if for example, Molara comes to you and mentions to you how she's being affected, impacted, or something is happening in her life that is just giving her a lot of stressors. You don't listen to her, but then say, oh yes, I see you're going through this, but you know we need to get the job done. No. You can adjust the task, you can reprioritize, because how well-being is as important as the job you're trying to get done. And that's what I mean by real check-ins, replacing status check-ins with emotional check-ins. Being practical, and it's not also a way that you use it against them in the future. Oh, because you complain about something or you made a report about not being well, and then it's being used against you in the future. No, that would just be a ticking the box thing, not the practical side of it in that sense. Because if as a leader you use your team's well-being against them in the future, now the confidence to express themselves will no longer be there. People will suffer, but they won't speak up. And then you have people showing it at work, but then the productivity isn't at optimal. So would you rather have people showing up and not getting the job done, or would you rather have people who are well enough to get the job done to productivity? So these are the things you want to consider. So some emotional check-ins can be done as a checklist item, but that's not what we want here. We want it to really be a human list item. The human list item is that you really care, you listen, and when your employees can trust you to care for their well-being, then they will trust you enough to even go beyond board to get the job done for you. And then again, the next thing I'm going to talk about here is a human-centered agile shift. It requires you to have an honest challenge session in additional to planning sessions. When I say honest challenge session, it's in a way that for you to be able to achieve priority at work, you will need to be able to allow your employees to be able to challenge decisions. They should be able to speak for and against decisions with confidence. Because in doing that, it helps with prioritizing. Imagine that there are unnecessary meetings that are being put in calendars, and because of how rigid the system is, your employees cannot exactly say to you, this meeting might not, I might not need to attend this meeting. So and so person can attend, but I can use this, take this time back to achieve so and so. If your employees do not have that hand to question, to speak for, then that's agile shift isn't there. It's a rigid system. So we need to be able to have honest challenge sessions in addition to planning sessions to achieve work priority. The next thing I would say here will be you need to have proper support system as you grow, as you try to encourage it, as you're growing in work. You need to have a proper support system. So I know a lot of people, there's always this saying when people say, oh, I went through this person has to go through it. Because you broke your leg when you passed through there, it does not mean, it now then means you have to give that barrier that made you break your leg for someone else to break. But then where is the change? Because you were not supported does not mean you shouldn't support somebody else. You can change the narrative, and that is in supporting someone else. When you work as a team, you achieve more results than working in silos. The former speaker had already said that, and I'm just buttressing that point. So for you to work as a team, you need to support. You need to show support to your colleagues. Your colleagues have to feel empowered. In terms of how you work in your team, you have to start thinking about, you have to make a point of this to provide appropriate landing power and work to encourage others to come into the system. As you have been there, are you mentoring somebody else to get here? Are you helping someone, a new colleague has just started working? How are you helping them? How are you showing them how to onboard? How are you showing them where they need to go? If you go to a new country, it's unfamiliar to you. You need someone to tell you where certain things are. Why do we use Google Maps? Nobody knows it all. You know it now because you have experienced it. So because you've experienced that, you now know it. Then you need to show somebody else how to get there. That was how you were taught. And even if you were not taught, break that chain, break that cycle. That is what agility also means. The next point I will raise here is we need to celebrate wellness wins, not just deliveries. We need someone to hold their hands, and people need their hands to be held as well. The job needs to be done, and people need to survive to get the job done. So we have to celebrate the wellness of people as we celebrate the deliverables that they bring into the company. And then capacity building is very important. Why? Investing money in building yourself helps you to achieve results effectively. You can't sit in one position and think that you will do better than you were 2 years ago. The world is evolving. Change is a constant. So capacity building is part of what helps for agility to be achieved in its effective way. And I say that to say, when your capacity is increased, is built up, what then happens to you is that you take time back. You're more efficient in getting things done. For example, before we had Google, we had Google and other search engines at the time. I know there were talks here and there about people becoming lazy. Oh, we need to get to the library, we need to do things physical. But now, Google is what we use to search. And the same way with AI. AI is here, and I love people are saying AI is taking our jobs. But AI helps to make for effectiveness, efficiency. It helps you save time, the time you would have used in going through something over and over again. AI makes it easy, it fine-tunes your work, but then you're the one behind that tool. Whatever you put into AI is what it will refine and give it back to you. But how can you put something into the AI tools if you are not even, your capacity is not built enough to understand the language and how things work? So it's very important for you to pay attention to building yourself, growing. Leaders should do well to invest in training, retraining, training your teammates. Subscribe to AI platform and learn to optimize it. For example, Tropic has a full course on how to optimize cloud AI, cloud.ai. Using ChatGPT for code scaffolding. When building a software, it's important to have a scaffold. So, is that structure the code that you're working on? Like, you need to, all of these things I'm speaking about, you need to build yourself up to get to use it. Everything works with support. You don't just build a house, there's a support system that keeps it growing. And it's that support that takes you to the highest level. So if you're building your capacity, you're meant to be more effective, and then you're taking time back and you're taking care of your well-being. Otherwise, you can spend 5 hours trying to complete one task because you want to do it by yourself. And that also connects to teamwork, because as you build your capacity, you're more effective to work with your team. But when you sit there, you're not working on yourself, you're not growing, then you become redundant. We hear of redundancy here and there. This is what it really means when you're not building your capacity. The last point is still, the last point I'll make here is, I'll just give a scenario. Imagine company B introduced optional video rituals. The result is that 60% more women participated. And then the message here is that tiny tweaks to process can unlock big emotional safety and inclusion. That's all I've been saying in speaking about the human-centered agile shift. My last slide would be that your sprint starts here. We have listened to an amazing presentation on how we can prioritize our well-being. Now, what are we going to do when we leave here? What are we taking back with us? It's just to say, Agile is about people, not speed. Mental health drives performance. That's your wellness. If you're not working hard, if you're not taking care of your wellness, your mental health, then you cannot perform with efficiency. Women in tech don't need to talk. The system must evolve. So my call to action for everyone here would be block one no meeting day this week. And when I say block one no meeting day this week, I want to practicalize it. And so I would want you all to stand up on your feet. So we're going to try a dance to connect to what I'm about to do here. I don't know if anybody has heard this song before, but you just join me. All you need to do is you do this, and then you know. I'm on that. You're not available. So in doing that, I say you're not available for meetings. You are not available. So that's what I meant by block no meeting days. Like there are days where you have no meeting for that week. Try to amplify a female colleague's idea. Add team well-being to your next plan. So to conclude here, I would say true agility isn't about moving fast. It's about moving together, sustainably, with everyone's voice heard and valued. Thank you.
Wow, that was a fantastic speech. I'm unavailable once in a week. prioritizing yourself, prioritizing your well-being, you would agree with me that that presentation was 100% amazing. Where do I even start from? It's well packed. The breakdown, the structure of this presentation is well presented. I mean, I've not been in the agile space, I've not been able to visualize what's the vision and what's the reality. And Payne has been able to give us a picture, and that's one thing I've been able to also dwell on, looking at the presentation, the visual representation of her speech and of what she has come to present to us. What's the vision? What's the reality? And that is a replica of what we go through as women, juggling several things, trying to meet up our goals, our hormones and all of those things affecting us as well. And she has been able to make us understand that we need to prioritize our well-being. I mean, you saw the statistics. You saw the statistics of women in tech who pass through all of these issues. So you're not alone. It's just for us to try to make that change, incorporate every point she has given to us, and we will be on our way to keep managing our well-being as women, making sure that we acknowledge that our mental health drives performance, and we need to guard our mental health. We need to make sure that we prioritize it as much as possible, as well as trying to give us the human center of agility. You will agree with me that when it comes to agility, we try to focus on the sprint and all of that, but she has been able to break it down. So for people here that are not aware of what sprint is all about, you have seen what sprint is all about, the breakdown, what we need to do to survive in the tech space, the agile shift, moving to the human center of agility, prioritize yourself, block out a week when you would. Everybody knows that this is the day when you give back to yourself and all of that. And one last thing is about building capacity. You see how she has been able to give us a take on building our capacity, try as much as we can to develop ourselves so that you also give back to the team. Because if you're not developing yourself, you're not building your capacity, you're not investing into yourself, into your personality development, professional development, how then will you be able to support your team? So all of these things, all of these points just tailors it into what we've come here to do, the human side of agility. Now we've been able to rethink agility, we've been able to rethink us, we've been able to rethink women, and how we will forge ahead in the professional space wherever we find ourselves. And that brings us to the end of the session. Thank you so much for attending.